Hey everybody, happy Wednesday, feliz miércoles, feliz cuarta-feira, happy hump day. Hope everyone's having a great day. I'm not doing too bad. Today was bench day, Gia G Supino, and I also did some overhead press. It was terribly weak, which I should have expected, and I did expect, but I wanted to mix things up a little bit. So I did a lot of bench press sets. I did a lot of press sets, and I heeded my own advice from yesterday where I talk about five being a magic number, but I talked about ramping sets there as well. So I used the little 2.5 pound plates to increment up. So the bar was incrementing in 5 pound loads for both of those movements. And that worked out pretty well. I think what's really nice about only moving up in 5 pound increments, especially on bench, is that it's so small in terms of an increment that it's really easy to keep the bar velocity constant. So I was able to do that really well, able to focus really well, and got a lot of reps in. I'm pretty happy about that. And then I got a lot of reps in on overhead press too. Uh, Form needs some work, but I kept things really light. I only worked up to 85 pounds. Was using my Easy Curl bar, which I love that thing. It's a rackable Easy Curl bar. They don't make it anymore. At least this brand doesn't. But if you find one, buy one. If you have your own home gym, rackable curl bars are the best curl bars. I mean, the other ones are fine, but I think the rackable ones are just superior because you can rack them on a power rack. So anyhow, good session. And the thing I want to kind of leave you with today is that when we train, we've got different modalities of training, but a lot of the bulk of most people's training focuses on this middle phase of things. And I kind of hinted at that yesterday when I talked about five being a magic number, which is just a convenient number in my opinion. But um, that rep range of handful of sets, a handful of reps, kind of really does a good job of driving strength and hypertrophy simultaneously. But we do have these other modalities that we can go into. We can go into higher reps and focus on hypertrophy a little bit. We can go into higher intensity, go to really pull heavy singles, push heavy singles, and drive maximal display of strength. Like if someone were peaking for a competition. So we've got these modalities, but we tend to not want to stay in those too long because they kind of wear thin. You accumulate too much, inflammation or fatigue, or it's hard to increment, whatever it may be. We tend to use them and then we kind of move away from them and move back to this central moment, as it were, of kind of strength training, programming for strength training. Again, where we're using, a rep range that's pretty well defined for a fairly, modest number of sets. So the reason I bring that up in terms of an analog to the reality in which we live in is I think a lot of us neglect the fact that most people are kind of in the middle. We live our day-to-day lives in the middle, especially when we have to interact with others face to face, where there's real consequences for being silly. So I'm seeing stuff that's going on, and I think a lot of it's because we're at the ends, right? We got people at either end of whatever spectrum this may be, just dwelling around those poles, creating this really bimodal, dipole, chaotic system that really doesn't need to be. It doesn't need to exist. Most of us live, again, in the middle, especially when we have to interact with each other, because somewhere deep in our ape brains, we know that that's how we're going to progress. We're going to progress through compromise, through empathy, through sympathy, through understanding each other's viewpoints and trying to coexist. Not this bimodal, exclude the middle kind of logic that's persistent out there. It's just not good. It's not real. Again, that goes back to the idea that computers and AI and all that kind of stuff that I know pretty well. That's discrete logic. It operates in zeros and ones. It splits things apart really well, but it doesn't handle fuzziness that well. So anyhow, in the gym, most of us tend to do things that work really well that kind of cluster about some general medium kind of approach that's sustainable, doesn't cause too much fatigue, drives the adaptations we want, but doesn't burn us out, all of those kinds of things. That's kind of where we exist when we're working hard in the gym. Sure, again, we can go to these modalities of high reps, high sets, high number of sets, and really push the volume numbers up. Or we can go to the other extreme where we're pushing heavy singles for just a few sets, trying to drive up that display of strength, but we don't dwell in those areas for a long period of time, because the bulk of our training has to happen in a place where it's sustainable. And that's where a lot of things really need to be in general. We need to compromise. We need to, all good things in moderation kind of thing. It applies to training. It applies to your personal life, all of that kind of stuff. So anyhow, that's what I got to say for today. Let's do better. Let's work together. Let's get together in that middle. Let's not exclude it. And that includes our training. Let's think about things sensibly. Let's think about how we can stay in the gym, drive the things we want to drive, and be sensible about our approaches. Having said that, hope everyone has a great day. Today or tomorrow, I've got the day off. Tomorrow and then Friday, I'll be hopefully pulling some deadlifts and having some fun. All right. Peace.